Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:30 and a quorum of members is present, so the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Helmer. Mr. Kurth. Here. Ms. Manley. Ms. Schulz. Ms. Unger. Here. Ms. Wondercheck.
And Mr. Helmer did let me know that he is unavailable tonight due to a work commitment, and Ms. Manley is going to be calling in. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session.
Mr. President, I move to recess into closed session pursuant to Section 19.851C E and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider A, the approval of closed session minutes of September 23rd, B, employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff, C, negotiation strategies.
Do I have a second? Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Wondercheck. Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Kurth? Yes. Ms. Wondercheck? Yes. Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Ms. Schulz? Yes. Ms. Unger? Yes.
We are moving into closed session and we'll return to open session around 7 p.m.
Testing 1, 2.
Hello. Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 7:19, and we are returning from closed session into open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by posting the agenda at each district school, the district office, and the city library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal-Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. First item on our agenda is recognitions.
At this time, I'd like to have Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning, Kelly Kwiatkowski, to come up. I am proud to tell you that this is part of our Career Exploration Partnership Spotlight, and specifically today, without stealing their thunder, is our partnership with the Rotary Club of New Berlin, where I'm proud to say that both Brady Ranke, who is in the back there, and myself are proud members of Rotary, and I'll tell you, you have one of the best Rotarians and citizens here of New Berlin with Dr. Arthur Angove, who will be presenting on behalf of the Rotary Club as well. So Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah. In spring, we were able to select 3 of our students from New Berlin West and Eisenhower to represent the School District of New Berlin at the World Affairs Seminar at Carroll University. And the theme this year was the perils and the pros of social media. So these 3 young ladies represented us, and they couldn't have done it without the School District of New Berlin, but also the Rotary. Each year, the Rotary sponsors some of our students to attend this event, and so we would like to formally recognize the Rotary tonight for doing so. Every single pathway, you hear about the importance of leadership. Leadership, leadership, leadership. So we're really excited to provide this leadership opportunity to students, and surely couldn't do it without you. So thank you, Dr. Angove. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. We have the world's best and intelligent students from all over the world. 123 countries are represented in the Rotary Club, and the students that are selected for the seminar truly are the best students that are in the school. So I'm really proud of you. You're just beautiful inside and out, and thank you for expressing the experiences that you enjoyed at the World's Seminar at Carroll University. And each year, we select 2 students from New Berlin West and New Berlin Eisenhower schools, and scholarships are available from the Rotary Club. So this next year, we anticipate another 4 wonderful students to represent us in the World Leadership Program. Thank you so very much for your participation in this very important project in developing leadership for our future world affairs. Thank you.
also asked each young lady to say a few words about the impact of this summer. So we're going to start with Alex Kneppel from New Berlin West. Ready? Sure. Thanks.
I don't think I've ever really experienced anything like the World Affairs Seminar. It really does make a difference to talk to people from a global perspective rather than just talking to people from my hometown. Especially discussing issues that don't necessarily have a distinctive solution. I thought that was really helpful. And I think I can use that in my future career. I really met some incredible people with just the brightest minds, and I couldn't have asked for a better experience. And I'd like to thank the Rotary so much for this experience. It was really the best week of my life.
She's thinking about law, so that's what I meant by it. All right, now we have Abby, and she's actually a junior, so she'll be with us next year as well.
So I would also like to thank the Rotary and the school board for sending me to this seminar. It was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. I got to meet so many amazing people and learn so many things, both from the different speakers at the seminar that taught us the different pros and cons of social media and how it will be used in the future. Social media is our future, and it will be used in every job, everywhere. And I got to discuss this with so many amazing people from different countries, different cultures, that had so many different perspectives on what social media means to them and how they use it in their daily life, in their schools, and in their families. So thank you for sending me to this seminar. I learned a lot.
And lastly, senior from Eisenhower, Melissa Ehrman.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and today I'm really excited just to talk about some of the impacts that attending the World Affairs Seminar has had on me as of now. I truly believe that the saying, knowledge is power, just applies to anything in our future, especially with students. And just being able to gain perspective of how other people all around the world use social media to their benefit and for education in ways that we couldn't imagine using because we have such a privilege here in the United States as well as in New Berlin. Gaining that perspective, I believe, was one of the most beneficial parts of attending the seminar, as well as hearing from professional keynote speakers. The experience was ultimately eye-opening and truly something that I recommend for leaders and anyone in our community just to gain new perspectives. And new perspectives is also key to education and to growing. So thank you so much to the Rotary for this opportunity, as well as the School District of New Berlin. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Kelly, how long is the seminar at Carroll?
Yeah, it's a week long in June, so after school gets out, they commit a week of their summer, and they do spend the night.
Oh, that's great.
Where at?
Carroll University, so not too far from home,
Right.
but still away from home.
Yeah. How long have they been hosting that seminar?
It's a long
Really?
time. I think it's at least over 10 years, probably 20. I will find out and let.
I was just curious.
I know,
That's
I'll
a
let
good
Mr.
homework.
Garza know.
I was
That's a good
wondering.
question.
Yeah, and I was wondering how many students attend this seminar? 300. That's a lot of people. So good for you guys. Yeah, that's great. It sounds great. I sort of want to go next year. You know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I might add, I've got a little jet lag. It's 3:30 in the morning for me. I just got back from 12 days in Israel.
Oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
thank you for the opportunity to present the World Affairs Seminar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. The next item is the privilege of the floor, which I do not believe we have any tonight. And so we will move on to the administrative team report.
Yeah, so I did want to just briefly update the board that we've been very introspective on how we are delivering our messages in a proactive manner as it relates to our students that are involved in athletics and co-curricular activities. So things like, for example, whether it's harassment or bullying or other things like, the epidemic that we're dealing with right now with kids under the age of 18 that are vaping that really shouldn't be doing so, or if there's, for example, the big thing out there is, THC with vaping, which is really what's causing, some of the severe illnesses that are out there. We are going to do a better job moving forward of educating our students as well as our families that are starting off within their respective seasons. So I think sometime in early to mid-November, we will be bringing forward to the board some of the changes that we'll be looking to make as a result of some of the things that we're starting to sense in the district that I think we can be doing a better job of. We may be asking the school board to make some adjustments to the co-curricular code or the handbook, as well as some of your respective policies. But I think more than that, certainly I'm not sure we're going to be able to, policy or police our way out of this. I think it's going to have to be more about education and getting out in front of our students and our families and just being very clear of what our expectations are. And so that, should there be, circumstances where they may that are unfortunate, we at least would know for sure that we've sent the message quite clear on the front end rather than just a kind of a quick check off. Now, to be able to do a presentation on the entire code is probably something that's not likely just for the sake of time, but certainly highlighting some of the things that have been brought to our attention as of late. And I know that the board has recently received some complaints about some of the things that are happening in the district. And so, again, know that I spoke to Amy about this previously, but we are working on this. I did want to bring it to your attention. And again, we'll be at least bringing this to you, probably one of my board updates as to what specifically we'll be addressing. So I did want to at least mention that to you. Amy, any further comment based off of that? Okay. So really that was my big update for tonight. I am going to reintroduce to you Nishi because she was here last time. Now she's here again because William, your New Berlin West representative, had a conflict, so they took it upon themselves to reschedule themselves. So William will be here at the next meeting. Nishi will be here tonight. I do want to point out before I have Nishi provide an update that in talking to Amy and other board members, we will be looking at having some sort of representation from the elementary schools to be able to present some updates from the schools themselves. There are several ideas that we're tossing around right now as far as how we can do that, where we can be doing that at least possibly, if it's not monthly, it's every other month that we hear from some of the elementary schools. We think we could provide a nice leadership opportunity for some students and or, a avenue through the respective board members that you already have. But, we're certainly going to be looking at speaking to our elementary leadership and seeing if they can't recommend how we can provide those updates from the elementary level too, not just the secondary schools. So with that, I'll hand it over to Nishi.
So for an update relating to sports, boys football is doing very well. The team beat West Dallas Central 42-6 2 weeks ago, which was the homecoming game, and beat Pius 49-14 this past Friday. Conference matches are over for boys volleyball, but they are preparing for regionals. Although they did not win conference, they did beat Pius last Saturday, a team ranked 10th in the state. So huge congrats to them. Also, congratulations to girls tennis. The team finished as sectional runners-up, and on Wednesday they will head up to Madison to play for state. It's been a busy past week for boys soccer. They played New Berlin West on Monday and lost 3-1, but they won against Milwaukee Lutheran on Wednesday 10-0 and lost to Waukesha West 3-0 on Saturday. For the update relating to activities, many events occurred during the week of homecoming. Spirit Week included Music Monday, NASA Tuesday, Jersey Wednesday, Generation Thursday, and Spirit Week Friday. Last Wednesday, we had our girls' annual Powder Puff game where the seniors won. And lastly, auditions for the winter play, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, are this week. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Manley to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, I think we're going to just do roll call when someone's on the phone. Is that all right? So all those in favor, well, okay, so you'll just call the roll for.
All right, Ms. Crosby.
Yes.
Mr. Kurth.
Yes.
Ms. Manley.
Yes.
Ms. Schulz. Ms. Unger. Yes. Ms. Wondercheck.
Okay, motion passes. That moves us to our regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda, at least on my copy, is the college and career readiness. So Kelly, can you give us an update on that?
Sure. So in the end, we did pull this off of the agenda for a variety of reasons. But so our college and career readiness update has a lot to do with our data from our senior class from last year. If you go onto our website, you will see our college and career readiness dashboard. And so we have just recently gotten the results in for our dashboard, and usually I like to have a little bit of time with the team to kind of analyze that data to be able to kind of tell you the story behind the results. So our goal is to bring that back to you. I will still encourage families, as a reminder, in Infinite Campus on the parent and student portal, you will be able to, if you have a high schooler, be able to go in and look at your individual child's blueprint, which will show them how they are progressing towards our career, college and career readiness indicators. Remember, we do have a vision of our graduate in the school district in New Berlin, and within the last 2 years, we have come up with some pretty solid research-based indicators that actually show us that our students are progressing towards our vision of our SDNB graduate. So this data will be forthcoming to you again, but we just were not ready tonight to be able to bring that to you with the story behind the data.
Great, thank you. Next item is the Employment Services Update Retention Strategy.
Yes, so we have Dr. Nicole Jones here, who will be presenting an update, and she's our Director of Employment Services. The board has asked that we bring at least 2 updates to you as it relates to our employment services reporting. Nicole did a presentation, I believe, last spring, and I wasn't sure if it was June, so I wasn't sure whether to say spring or not. Okay. So she is back for her second time this year, and then our goal is to, as we continue to do our state interviews, hopefully we won't have too many exit interviews. As we look at our survey data from our staff, we'll be able to update you with some more information yet this spring. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Nicole.
So our report back in June focused a lot on that stay and exit interview data. This report tonight is going to focus mostly on what happened over the summer with our retention, retainment, and recruiting strategies. So to start, these are our voluntary resignations for this past school year. So we had a total of 24. It's similar to last year. We had a total of 26. And if you click into where it says link to prior year data, you can see several years back. There's a silver lining to this, though. Even though the number of voluntary resignations stayed somewhat the same, there was a significant drop in those going to another district. So whereas last year, 18 of those folks that left us went to another district, this year we only had 8. And many of those reasons included wanting to work closer to home. So it wasn't by and large what we had seen in the past where they were seeking additional compensation, better benefits, that sort of thing. So the data definitely told a much different story about why folks were leaving. And then you can see we had several relocations, people staying home to raise a family, and some career changers. This is just a longer range view of what that turnover looked like. So again, this is over year, starting with 2013 and to the present school year. The number of staff members that have left to take a job in another district. So you can see this is the lowest year that we've had. So again, that's a really positive note in terms of some of our turnover that we've had. And then what this data shows you, this is a percentage of our voluntary turnover. So the percentage, again, it was slightly down from last year. Last year's percentage of voluntary turnover compared to the whole of our teaching staff. Last year was 8.5, this year was 7.8. What that blue line in the center is showing you is the local, our peer group comparison, we'll say. So it's school districts local to New Berlin, includes our Elmbrook, Mequon, Thiensville, Waukesha, and the like, and we can break that down into actual districts on the next slide. But it does show that we tend to trend a little bit above the average turnover. But when you do look at our peer groups, you'll also see that there are other high-performing districts that are in the same boat as we are. And so we're not sitting out there on top with the highest amount of turnover. We're not the lowest amount of turnover. Kind of trending somewhere in the middle or high middle. And I took it back to 17-18. That's about as good a data as we have currently. If you travel it back a few more years, you just didn't have people like contributing data. So we just don't have that. But again, this just shows you kind of the trend, and a lot of folks are experiencing similar turnover in their districts in terms of voluntary resignations. So then back in June, we presented this information to you, but we just wanted to bring it back as a reminder of why our teachers are staying with the school districts of New Berlin. And first and foremost among any of our survey data is that they love the students, they love the families that they get to work with in our district. Then they love the professional development that we're able to provide. We have numerous all district professional days for staff. We have opportunities for staff to choose their own learning pathways, and we build in time for that, as well as in building professional development. We also have very professional supportive colleagues. We continue to note that we are a professional learning community. We're very proud of that. And if you were to travel to a lot of other school districts, you wouldn't necessarily see the same level of professional development that staff are getting there, and it's really a source of pride for this district. We have a very positive school culture. We have strong leadership in our buildings. The teachers also speak very highly, and all of our staff speaks very highly to our ability to be innovative and to adapt to student needs. So as technology is changing, as our students are changing, we are adapting, we are changing. Sometimes changing a little too fast, but we want to keep up. It's important. And then again, as we mentioned, we're a professional learning community, so we also pride ourselves on building in that collaborative time for all of our staff. Again, this was from data in June, but we talked about work-life balance. That continues to be a trend on our survey data year over year. It's also very much a trend in the private sector. It may be a generational piece, but we are seeing more and more folks talking about the need for greater work-life balance. Some of that has to do with there are a lot of meetings before and after school. In addition to some of that professional learning, they both love it, but they also want some time back, or there might be a little bit too much for them to take on. So as we continue to plan our professional learning over the year, we work with the teaching and learning department, and we talk about how can we spread this out. And we've been very focused in our learning. So we've seen feedback or negative feedback about too much new definitely going down as we've been following a 3-year plan and being more consistent in what we're presenting. Recognition, not feeling valued for the amount of work. Some of that is tied to compensation. Some of that just means they want to see their building leaders, they want to see us as district leaders out in the buildings and making sure that we're saying, you know, how's your day going? What do you need? How can we support you? So making sure that we're all being more visible and we are actively recognizing the work that they're doing. And then student behaviors has been challenging. And so again, the teaching and learning department, They are putting their heads together. They're working with the teachers in various buildings to strategize about how to best be proactive in addressing student behaviors going forward. And we went over this focus at the end of the presentation back in June, but this is again a recap of where we are focusing our efforts throughout the year. We continue to make sure that we're communicating and being transparent about where we're at with our budget in terms of being able to compensate teachers, provide solid benefits, and talking about, where cuts may or may not occur. Work-life balance, as I mentioned. So we are, again, reviewing our meetings. What time can we give back if we're able to give time back? We also did cut down teacher contracts by 3 days. So this is the first year that they will be on a 190-day contract versus 193. We reviewed needs and students for student behavior. That's an ongoing project. It's a challenge for all districts in the area. It's a challenge for district nationwide. So we are continuing to work on that, social and emotional support, being trauma-sensitive schooling, and so forth. Staff recognition, encouraging our administrators and to get into the classroom even more frequently than they are as part of their evaluation cycle, but also outside the evaluation cycle. Being visible, checking in on their staff, and making sure that we're continuously recognizing the amazing work that our staff is doing, communicating it out on a public forum, then sending it out in our monthly newsletters, and so forth. We did engage in a compensation, we're in the midst of a compensation review, so we are looking at teaching assignments, so chemistry, biology, cross-cat, et cetera. We're looking at the average salary in the metro Milwaukee area. We're looking at it based on years of teaching experience. So we're trying to pull in that data from the Department of Public Instruction so that we can get a better handle on what our pay looks like compared to others. So that is in process. And we also did an update to our portfolio process, which is part of our compensation model, which I'll go over on the next slide. And then again, increasing our frequency to celebrate successes, communicating it out in staff newsletters, building newsletters, and then just saying it right to our teachers, making sure that we're being visible in the buildings and speaking out and getting into those buildings and celebrating what they're doing. And then finally, looking at employee engagement, opportunities to grow, opportunities for leadership. Unfortunately, we've had to cut some of our leadership positions recently, so that's definitely a challenge. So it's an area where we'll need to get more creative in terms of being able to offer up those leadership opportunities so that staff aren't going to look for them elsewhere. In terms of the compensation model portfolio process, we did the model for 3 years. We took some feedback with the directors who were scoring the portfolios, those teachers who participated in the portfolio, and what we did is we worked to tighten up our focus on district goals. We wanted to also make sure that it was more accessible to our teachers who are already working very hard in their classroom and outside their classroom. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't repetitive, there weren't redundancies, that it was concise so that they could put in exactly what needed to be in there and they weren't doing more work than what was needed. So we were able to focus more on our district goals, including universal design for learning, including using technological literacy in the classroom, looking at leadership, looking at how staff are collaborating, how they're growing and developing professionally, and in each section making sure that there's accountability so that they're providing data to attest to the work that they've done. We also increased the recognition to 3 tiers versus 2 tiers. We added a tier that was just focused on classroom work, because we recognize that a lot of our staff are doing outstanding things in the classroom, but they may not be comfortable presenting at a level outside the classroom, presenting to peers, presenting at a district level. So we wanted to make sure that those rock stars that were in the classroom still got the recognition that they deserve for helping advance our students. And then finally, we were able to approve a near-site clinic, Paladina Health, which will open up in January, and we did just start communicating that out. It's open enrollment that started today. So we had some benefit meetings running all of last 2 weeks. We introduced this to our staff. We got a lot of positive feedback about it. They're very excited I was in the buildings, some buildings today, and again, hearing from our staff that they're really excited about having this near-side clinic as an opportunity for them. So the clinic is going to help us become more proactive in terms of monitoring our healthcare and our clinic costs, reducing chronic conditions, reducing time away from work, because they can just zip over to the clinic, get what they need, and come back. And then offering our staff another benefit to them while also being fiscally responsible about it. So, questions?
I do, before we get into the questions, one of the things that Nicole and I have recently, and with Patrick, are looking to investigate, and we've dabbled into this conversation previously, but we're looking at a cost neutral or even a positive garnering of dollars with a daycare and childcare that would support not only our employees, but also that of the community. I think we would, one of the things that we're looking to do is to put out a survey to our staff to see if they would be willing to take advantage of something like that. As I had mentioned in my update to you when I went to the State Superintendent's Convention last month, that was a roundtable that was hosted by some school districts that are currently in the process of it. They're starting that process for their employees in their community. I think us waiting a little bit to have them go through their trials and tribulations of their work, I think is going to be good. And again, I do mention, while I do believe it could be a benefit to our staff, we also need to make sure that we're minding our budget as well, so that that it's not just something that we are kind of burdening the budget, given the circumstances. But at the same time, we have identified that we have a staff that are bearing children in quite a bit, and so what can we do? Because I do know that some of our teachers have also decided not to continue working because of the work-life balance and wanting to be a full-time parent instead, or something with a little bit more flexibility. So again, it is something that we are looking into, and but I just wanted to, I know we talked about Paladina, we also talked about the portfolio changes, but then know that we're also looking at that option as well. We probably wouldn't start anything any sooner than next school year, if at all. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then I think, again, thanks to Janet, who had suggested several things for our staff as well. I know we've posted in our intranet. Can you talk briefly about that,
Sure.
Nicole?
Yep.
Where some of our staff members can take advantage of things like a pet insurance, where there is no cost to the district, but it is something that our staff could take advantage of at a nominal cost. I hate to look at Brady, but Brady had a situation where I think he could have used doggy insurance when his puppy broke a leg within the first few weeks that they had the puppy at home. So Brady, you might want to take a look at that. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, so we did add Benefit Hub as well to our intranet at no cost, and so it's a site where you can go on and you can purchase pet insurance, you can purchase services and goods and whatnot at a discounted rate. And so we have staff that will be able to get reports, I believe, out of that as well, so we can see if our staff are taking advantage of that and those discounts as well. So little things to try to make their lives easier.
Did you get any feedback from those benefit sessions about the Paladina option?
Yeah, it was by and large very positive. They're looking forward to having that no or low cost option. I think a lot of them are really excited about, especially those who have dependents, being able to very easily take their dependent over to the clinic and be able to get in. And that 24/7 care that Paladina offers, so being able to call up your doctor, not just a doctor, not just going to urgent care and seeing a random doctor, but consistently seeing the same person who's going to know you and get to know what your needs are. That really went over very well with our staff. So I'm hearing very good things.
Have you been to all the schools?
Yep, we did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the retention data that is on slide 5, I'm just curious as to, do you have any idea as to why schools like Greenfield, Muskego, McGuanago, Oak Creek have such low turnover?
We can dig into that. It'd be an additional survey that we'd have to look to. I mean, it can be any number of things from culture, it can be compensation. Our Elmbrooks of the world, I believe, are able to pay a little bit higher in terms of some of the areas that they're compensating. But the data, as we're digging into it too, with that is all over the place. So I'm seeing somebody with 3 to 5 years of experience in chemistry making $50,000, somebody with 5 or 10 years making the same amount, and then you leap up and now they're making 10,000 more. So it's the data since Act 10 is really all over the place as people are negotiating what they want to have paid. So it's hard to tell, and when you get into smaller districts, I think you have, it's not necessarily higher touch, but they're smaller districts, it's comfortable. And some of these districts too, you have to consider that the union versus not union, so you have that step-in lane that some people really buy into and really like. And you're not seeing, I think if you were to talk to some of the younger staff, they might say, I really like the ability to negotiate my pay, and I know how hard I'm working, and I want that. So people are kind of selecting in now to the places where they feel more comfortable, where they think that they have a fit. And what we're getting in New Berlin is exactly what we want. It's people who want to learn, people who want to grow, and people who want to be challenged and want to be innovative. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue to see our turnover go down as we're getting in more and more folks that are really fitting into what our philosophy is here and really want to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, here in New Berlin. In a little bit of turnover, there's nothing wrong with turnover. Turnover is okay, and we can see that there are a lot of higher performers who are having that turnover, and we also know that it's that kind of environment, it's that kind of employment environment right now with the economy being what it is. So we're getting the right people in, and so I think that's something to really hang our hat on.
Sure, that's good to hear, because I agree, it's not always a bad thing to have turnover. Sometimes you want that turnover to get the right people in the right places.
Has there been any analysis of like the turnover rates or feedback building to building? Like, are there any trends or learnings that some administrators could provide to other administrators?
The data is really similar when you get into exit interviews in terms of reasons to stay or go. Like I said, with this year, what was really interesting about this year's data is when they did go to another district, I said probably the 5 of the 8 even were relocating to be in a district that was closer to home. And we've seen that as a trend also year over year, where they're moving back to the district where their kids go to school. Because, as Joe was mentioning, there's that work-life balance element. So if I can be a few minutes from home, that's maybe 20, 30 minutes more time that I get to spend with my family, which is really important to folks with a lot of young kids. So it's not any one particular school that we're seeing. It's and each school kind of has a year where they have more turnover than others, but the reasons are by and large the same. I need more work-life balance. I need more time with my family, that sort of piece.
All right, thank you, Nicole. This is very good information, and great job on working on that retention and retaining the teachers we have.
Thank you.
We will be bringing back a report in the spring.
The next item on our agenda is consideration of policy 1325, disclosure of pupil directory data.
What we're looking for is an amendment to the policy that the board approved at the last meeting related to policy 1325. Essentially, one of the pieces that was missed in our initial draft did not include the public notice requiring the public notice requiring publication. And so we're asking for the board to include the verbiage that has been provided you that reflects the changes as an amendment to the policy that was approved.
We're looking for a motion on that?
I think you can do it one of two ways. You can approve it as the amendment based on the previous approval, or you can do it as a first read. And then I can bring it back for your approval at the next meeting. Either way works.
I'd like to do this as a first read, so if anybody has any comments or anything on it before, and then we'll vote on it at the next meeting.
Sounds good?
If you have a comment, no, otherwise.
Yeah, the only comment that I wanted to make was, I know that we changed the directory policy at the last, I mean, not the last meeting, it was the meeting before the last meeting, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, it was 2 meetings ago, I think. And I voted in favor of that, and I think that Kate was the only one who voted against it. And since then, I've been giving some thought to what this change in policy will do for organizations like PTAs and things like that. And I'm concerned at how that fallout is going to occur, because I think that as a district, I feel like what we've been trying to do, certainly within the last calendar year, is trying to bring more community together, all over the school district of New Berlin. And I think that that also should extend to our different buildings. And I think it's very hard for school communities to coalesce and to be together as a community where they can't communicate with each other easily. So I guess what I'm sort of struggling with is, I don't think that I'm concerned that we may see some negative fallout from the change in this policy. And I know that it was brought on because some people took that directory information and used it for purposes for which it was not intended. But there's a say, I'm a lawyer, and there's a saying in the law that bad facts make bad law. And I feel like we had bad facts, and the bad facts were that people misused that information for a purpose for which it wasn't intended. And now what we're doing is we're trying to cut off the information so that nobody can misuse it, which is a good aim, but I'm concerned that there's going to be some negative fallout I was the president of the Orchard Lane PFC. Kate was the president of Ronald Reagan's Home and School. I think that when you are in those positions, you realize just how important it is to be able to communicate with your families within a school building in order to get things done for the kids that you want to get done for the kids. So I guess I'm backtracking on my position on that, because I'm sort of thinking through some of the natural consequences of limiting that data to those school families. So I have and I know that this just, makes more consistent our policies, and it corrects something. So I understand the administrative reason for doing this, but when I was looking at it, and after that other meeting, I was thinking about it further, and I was thinking to myself that this may have some very bad unintended consequences to our school families, and I'm not sure that's where we as a district should be going. I know why we're going there. I know what the impetus was, and I get that, and it's a good reason, but I'm concerned about detaching all these communities from one another, which is not what we need right now. That's my concern. So those are my comments.
Has there been any workarounds for this, though, possibly, when it comes to communicating with, like the PTO communicating with the school families?
We don't actually use the director at Reagan for communication. We do it all through the office. So we send the admin secretary what we want communicated, and that all gets sent out. I voted against it because personally I've used the directory for birthday party invitations or play dates, and I know a lot of families do that. It's an easy way to get in touch with friends' parents from your kid's class, having that directory information. So a little less formal than the HSA using it, but.
Were you thinking more though, Crystal, on personal basis for families to connect with each other using it, or were you thinking more on HSA, PTO type situation?
I was thinking both. I think the workaround that Kate's describing is a good one, because you can loop in the administration of the building and have stuff done. And we did that too when I was the PFC president. But I was just planning a birthday party for my son, and I pulled out last year's directory because that's all I have. So I was able to come up with some email addresses for people, but I can't get email addresses for people who are new to his class this year.
Okay.
So I won't be able to do that. And I think that it is, it is important for our parents to be able to feel like they can connect with, you know, their contemporaries. And I don't know if there's, I mean, we always did have in our prior policy, we always had an opt-out where people could opt out of that directory, I believe, right, Joe? That was always an option for families. Because I remember that we were asked, I feel like we were asked at Orchard Lane if we wanted to opt out of the directory, and we didn't because we wanted people to be able to find us. And I don't know, I mean, I just wonder if, you know, I think there is a workaround. It sounds like for PTAs, you know, they could do what, you know, what you guys do. And I'm not on the PFC board anymore. I haven't been for several years, so I don't know what they're doing. But it's a thought that I had, and when we, you know, when this additional policy review came up, it made me think about it even further. So I guess I would just say, you know, maybe we can continue to kind of monitor and maybe get some feedback from parents about how they feel about the changes, and maybe we can, you know, there's no harm in reconsidering it down the road if it's just not working out the way that we want it to. I mean, I do think it's a, you know, I mean, our daughter just started at Ike this fall, and I don't know a lot of those parents, you know, and I'd like to get to know them, and I'd like to be able to connect with them, but I don't have the ability to do that. You know, I just don't. She's in a new school now, so I don't have the ability to connect with those parents. So I think that those connections and those community ties within school buildings, I think, are important for the culture of New Berlin that I think we all want to build. So I just posit it for your consideration and, you know, to think about it.
My question is unrelated. It's mainly around what is the difference between policy 1325 and 5125, and why do we have two?
The 1325 is virtually the public notice that needs to be published.
Okay.
So in essence, it's just restating.
Okay.
It's
So they
more
have to be
concise.
separate.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have a second read and vote on policy 1325 at the next meeting. The next item on the agenda is discussion regarding financial forecasting. We are going to be tabling that until a future meeting. And then the last item on our regular agenda is action items discussed in closed session. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Schultz to approve the employment services report. All those in favor? I don't know. We'll just go through the roll again.
Mr. Kurth? Yes. Ms. Schultz? Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Ms. Manley?
Yes.
Ms. Unger? Yes. Ms. Wondercheck?
Motion passes. The next item is our future meeting and dates. So the board meetings are generally held on the second and fourth Monday, beginning at 7 p.m. The next three will be held in the New Berlin West Commons. So October 28th is when the Community Budget Task Force will be presenting the report to the board. We have another meeting on Monday, November 11th and November 25th. And then beginning in December, the board will hold a meeting at each school. Meetings will be preceded by a tour of the respective buildings. So December 9th will be our meeting at West, January 13th at Eisenhower, February 10th at Elmwood, March 9th at Orchard Lane, April 27th at Ronald Reagan, and May 11th at Poplar Creek.
Amy, can I just ask a question about that schedule? So is the time still the same, or do we come sooner for a tour, or has that all been figured out? And
So we're still fine tuning kind of the process, but we were thinking that we would hold the board meeting at the same time and have closed session at the same time, but we were thinking maybe the board members would be able to come earlier for like a little tour. We were gonna have the building administrators maybe talk to the home and school organizations to say, hey, do you wanna provide like a little light dinner or something for the board on that evening? And then have the have the tour and have people come and go on the tour with the board members. So we'll have to figure out time-wise, because we know that that will impact your own work schedules. So we'll have to decide that sooner rather than later, but we also know that we don't want to really go away from what our board meeting times are. So we'll have to continue to
Yeah,
figure
I think
out
what we were
details.
looking at was, I think we were looking to possibly move closed session to the end, so that, you know, if you did start at 6:30, you could do like a quick tour. Like the board meeting may not actually start till, say, 7:30, but it's still not earlier than, say, 6:30 to accommodate your respective schedules. So we'll work out those details, but again, the whole notion is we're trying to get you to the buildings, have a quick check of it, have their home and schools, have their staff talk to you about what's happening in their schools. We also want to invite the community in for those tours as well. So it's not just like a tour for the board. We're inviting the public to come and check things out as well, which I think is important. Back to Krislin's point about, you know, getting the community involved. And so again, I think it's going to be great to at least, and then you have the meetings at the school themselves, so I think it'll be great.
And then all the other meetings, not the ones that are noted here at the 6 locations, will be held at West, like the remainder of them, or
Yes.
we're back at West for all of those? Okay.
And I think we can talk a little bit about that now that we've got a little bit more flexibility with our technology. You know, we could consider, you know, rotating between Ike and West. I know that that's something that some of the board members have had asked for. Part of the reason why we had was because of our antiquated technology, but because we're going to have a new solution, we may have more flexibility with it. So.
All right, that brings us to our last item. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Schultz to adjourn. Can you call the roll?
Mr. Kurth?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz?
Yes.
Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Ms. Manley?
Yes.
Ms. Unger? Ms. Wondercheck?
Yes.
Bye, Susan.
Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Bye.